we have any questions about that, I'd be glad to take them. If not, I'm going to keep moving and talk about drip irrigation. Drip irrigation is a great option and a great alternative to conventional irrigation in the form of overhead watering, especially in settings like vegetable beds. It's very, very easy to run drip irrigation from a spigot on the side of the house or even a rain barrel and run it into raised bed gardens. Um, Irregular shaped beds around your landscape can also be good opportunities for converting to drip irrigation. And we have lots of information on that, workshops in the future that will cover how to do just this. Potted plants can be watered with drip irrigation through spaghetti tubing. So lots of great applications for drip irrigation. So with anything though, there are advantages and disadvantages. So I'd say the advantages are that it uses water more efficiently. You're going to have a lot less water wasted with drip irrigation because you're applying slowly right at the soil surface. And so you're going to have less evaporative loss. You're going to get more water effectively to the root zone of the plants. You're going to have a more precision application because you get set flow rates at each of those emitters along the drip tubing. And so you're going to know how much you're putting out depending on how long you're running it. So most drip irrigation tubing is in a gallons per hour output rate, and you can buy tubing that's half a gallon per hour up to 2 or 3 gallons per hour output. And so you'll know how much water you're using, and you can match that with your soil type and your needs. Research has proven drip irrigation to provide some yield increases when it's used in crop and vegetable garden settings. And also it can encourage fewer weeds because if you think about it, those weed seeds tend to hang out in that top 1 or 2 inches of soil. And if you're continually watering and giving a nice damp seed bed for those weeds, then you give them more opportunity to germinate. But if you're just giving moisture to the base and the root zone of those vegetable plants that you're trying to grow, landscape plants, whatever it is, you're reducing the moisture that's in between where those weed seeds could potentially germinate. Some of the disadvantages, really, cost can be an issue, but it's really not that costly. What I would say is the biggest disadvantages are that it can be damaged by garden tools and pests and can require seasonal maintenance, just like anything. And so, yes, your tubing sometimes gophers, moles, raccoons, possums, whatever it may be, dogs, if they get thirsty and they learn that there's water in there, they may nibble into it to get a drink. And so there can be some seasonal repairs. The nice thing, and this would be an advantage, is that it's very easy to patch and repair drip irrigation, much easier than traditional irrigation in ground. If you were to set up drip irrigation for a raised bed vegetable garden or any setting, really it's much simpler than people think. And so this is a diagram of how you would do that. You'd find your water source, whether it be a spigot on the side of your house or a frost-free horsehead spigot in the yard somewhere. And then you would have your tubing. And to connect your tubing to that source, you would need a backflow preventer, which is a safety mechanism to prevent water that comes out from going back into the water source. A pressure regulator, because drip tubing tends to operate best around, say, 15 pounds of pressure per square inch. And your source water may be much higher than that. It may be 40, 50, 60 PSI. And so it can damage your tubing if you don't have a pressure regulator, which is going to ensure that the water coming in is at the right pressure. A filter is important, especially in settings where maybe you're irrigating with well water, you have hard water. It's going to prevent sediment such as sand and other debris, as well as calcification from hard water from gumming up your lines. And then you attach your tubing. You can purchase these kits where all of this is ready to go from just about any garden store, any place that sells irrigation equipment. They'll give you all you need to tap right into your spigot and then run your tubing out into your vegetable gardens. Think about your soil type. So water is going to move differently through different soil types. And so if you have a clay soil, it's going to tend to move very slowly at a vertical infiltration rate. It's not going to move deep into the soil very quickly. It's going to move more horizontally. A sandy soil is the opposite. It's going to move through the soil very quickly. And so you want to match your flow rates based on the type of soil you have. And this is just an image of what it might look like with drip irrigation in a clay soil versus a sandy soil versus, say, a medium loamy soil. So make sure you think about your soil type when you're planning for irrigation purposes. If you're converting drip irrigation in a landscape setting where you have automatic sprinkler heads already, it's very, very easy now to buy retrofit kits such as this one and to convert sprinkler heads that are in the ground that pop up to drip irrigation. And we'll have more information available on this, in the form of YouTube videos and fact sheets and things. There's lots out there. We don't have time to walk you through it today, but we'll do workshops in the future as well on this. And so we can get you the information you need if you're really interested in this. But it's a very, very simple process to take heads like this and convert to drip irrigation. If you have large raised bed areas, these are just some images of what it could look like to do this. You could pretty easily rig up drip tape or drip tubing in raised bed settings or in-ground settings. And actually this right here, I'd have a combination of both large raised beds and in-ground production at my home vegetable garden. And for my home in-ground area, I pretty much do just this. This is a diagram of what I do at home. I use the blue header tubing. I take the drip tubing that's flat. We call it tape, drip tape, and I put it in, and I run a garden hose from my spigot out to my garden. Use the filter and all the setup that we just discussed, and my header tubing, and then I run my lateral lines to each crop accordingly. And what's nice about this is you can use different emitter spacing. If you have crops that need tighter spacing or further apart spacing in terms of their water output, you can puncture this and put your lines at any spacing you want here. So if you have crops that you want really tightly spaced with, say lettuces or something, and you're going to run quite a few strands, and then you have other crops that you're just going to run fewer strands, you can really customize it, and it's a great way to keep a in-ground garden watered